everyone, I'm Dr. Donnelly.
And I'm Dr. Hinson.
And we're the Good Doctors of Abbey Research, coming at you with our recap and analysis of Handmaid's Tale Season 2, Episode 11.
11.
And I am coming to you from the Hampton Inn, which is why I look like I'm in bed, because I am, because where else are you supposed to sit in a hotel room?
I am clearly back in Pittsburgh, and Kristen is clearly not in Philadelphia. We are traveling a lot lately.
I am traveling. There's a lot of plane rides in the Good Doctor's life right now. So
next episode I think we'll probably be together, but in a different state than either of us are in right now.
We're probably still in a Hampton somehow.
Probably still in a Hampton Inn. So get used to that background, everybody.
We're big fans of Hilton at Abbey Companies. So this is one of those episodes where there's not a ton to dig into, but I don't think I breathed for the entire episode either, because it was so arresting.
No.
So we pick up where we left off.
June, abandoned.
Essentially, so she's wandering around the house. There's a lot of breathing and not a lot of talking.
Yeah, with uncomfortable silence.
She's looking for non-handmade clothes.
She's trying to find keys to the garage. Yeah.
We see pictures of Hannah, so clearly this wasn't the commander's house, but Hannah's commander's house.
Yeah, and like she picks up a picture that Hannah clearly drew of like her Gilead family, which was really upsetting. There were maps on the wall behind on like I think the progression of Gilead, but I couldn't really see them. I was teasing us with this.
We tried, guys.
No.
And there's a lot of back and forth, and then there's a whole thing with a wolf that keeps showing up that I don't really get. And if
I was gonna like Google the symbolism of black wolves, but then I didn't feel like that was gonna come out very academic, so I left it and was just like fear. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, in Harry Potter, when Sirius Black shows up, the black dog is death.
Yeah, so like
we're supposed to take from it.
Are we like reading tea leaves in the bottom of? Is this Professor Trelawney's going to explain to us what that means, or is it just I don't know, a threat, risk? Yeah. I don't know what it was symbolizing.
I don't know. And I was talking to somebody who has given birth, which neither one of us has. Again, as a reminder to any of our folks. And she wondered if it was even like a hallucination, because like June was already in labor at that point, clearly, even though her water hadn't fully broken. She was in labor, and probably protein deficient, and probably dehydrated. And so
you didn't see her eating and or drinking.
Yeah, I have a lot of dehydration fears for our June.
Yeah, it's possible she was
just hallucinating. But if so, that's a really crappy hallucination. Writers.
Yeah.
So why are we
Anyway, they're far too clever.
So there's two main events in this episode that we want to unpack. The first is Serena and Commander Fred show up.
Yes, they do. Was that before? No, that was after. June then tried to escape after that. She finds a classic car. I'll put a pin in that because I was very upset.
That's like 2A. Aaron has thoughts on the car.
Yes, but Fred and Serena show up to the house. Serena is pissed. Oh, before that, we have to talk about Radio Free America, though.
Oh my God, I forgot. Yes, Radio Free America.
So when she finds the car in the garage and it starts, which the classic car like that's been sitting for that long wouldn't start after so long, but that's fine. We don't need accuracy. And the radio comes on and it's Oprah. Was so wonderful on Radio Free America. Somewhere in the Great White North, she says. The U.S. government is in Anchorage, we learn, and they are receiving aid from allies, and other allies are placing sanctions on Gilead. So machinations are happening outside. And then she's like signing off, from here, stars and stripes forever, baby. I was like, God love you, Oprah.
Something like if you're a true American patriot or a Gilead traitor.
Or a Gilead traitor, I know. How fun is her life? She just gets a phone call that's like, would you like to be in 10 seconds of The Handmaid's Tale?
She's like, sure, sounds good.
Yes. So then She starts having memories of her first pregnancy as she is trying to escape, and then Fred and Serena show up.
Yeah. So one of the things that's really important to remember about Gilead is that it's not real in terms of a faith system.
Oh, yes.
It's entirely a system of control.
Mm-hmm.
It started as an idea of faithful people trying to work out a problem and assigning supernatural explanations to a natural problem. That is just about how every religious system on the planet ever in the history of time has started. When it started getting militarized is when it stopped becoming a faith system and became a system of power and control.
And theocracy, yeah.
Theocracy. The thing with that is that the minute it gets uncomfortable, everything begins to unravel.
It goes away.
It's a brick wall. And if you take out one of the bricks, the whole thing crumbles. And that is exactly what we saw for our Waterfords in their fight.
They had quite a domestic.
Quite a row.
Quite a row, as we say in the United Kingdom. Yeah, and Fred's just not a smart fellow, our Fred, is what we learn. He's like, Nick would never be disloyal. Lol. Offred, what did he say? Offred would have been grateful. And to me, what was the most fascinating was Serena looked at him and said, you raped her yesterday. Mm-hmm. To which I replied, as if you didn't.
Yeah. So I screamed to the TV, you held her down, you cow. Like,
you heinous cow. And also, as if all the other times weren't rape. Way to go, Serena.
They weren't, because they were within the system.
To Serena, to everybody else.
I understand.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, that's what I'm saying. If you're drawing this distinction, what happened was out of the system, and therefore she can use that word because it's power and control.
Fascinating. Her and I loved how like neither of them were taking responsibility for anything.
No, because you can't. Not in a theocracy. You can't.
Yeah.
You can't.
You did this. You did this to me. You did this to me. Blah blah blah. This is all your fault. I'm cleaning up your mess. They should know. No, they should not. Yeah, she says like you sent her out here with the father of her baby to see her daughter, and you thought everything was going to be okay. So she's left. All the pretense is gone. They're swearing at each other. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think it's also probably the first conversation they've had since he got out of the hospital.
Possibly. Yeah.
Like a real conversation where they weren't doing a dance.
And she said, the big thing she said was, I gave up everything for you for the cause, and I only ever wanted a baby. And then she just starts like, I have nothing. You've left me with nothing. I have nothing. Okay. Super dramatic.
Like yes and no, Petal. Like again, these are decisions that you made.
Yeah.
I'm still 100% convinced that there are other ways to get a child than creating a totalitarian dictatorship.
Like, did they not have adoption?
Buckner International, like right now in our great state of America, would love to hook you up with a foster child.
Like, there are children that need love all over this world.
You crazy lady.
You don't have to set up a utilitarian theocracy that controls everybody.
So
anyway,
the most tense part of that conversation, I think, for most viewers is going to be that June had them in her gun sights.
I know.
So I think anyone who's ever watched a television show knows that she wasn't going to fire that gun. But man, was I rooting for it.
Yeah, it was intense.
And then this is Elizabeth Moss's Emmy reel. The last 20 minutes of the episode is just her Emmy reel.
Can we give her like multiple Emmys? I don't feel like one is sufficient.
No. So the rest of the episode is essentially her in labor.
Yes.
And her flashing back a whole bunch, which Dr. Hinson's gonna cover in a minute.
Yeah, she tries to get out. She starts the car. She packs her bag. Car can't get out of the garage. She does a lot of damage to what looks to be a Firebird or a Mustang. Either way, it's completely unacceptable. And was a really tense part of the episode for myself and my friend's husband, who actually looked away, which was very funny. I was like, you've watched everything else that's ever happened in this show, but this is what's too much. Damaging
tracks.
Damaging.
Tracks, though.
Yeah. Damaging the Firebird. And she falls while she's trying to get the garage door open and realizes that, like, oh shit, I'm actually in labor and I'm gonna have to stop trying to escape and have this baby.
And then she shoots a flare because her need to, or not a flare, just a bullet, whatever.
She fires the shotgun multiple times, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And essentially says, come and get me.
Yeah,
for the daughter, and for her baby, not for her whatsoever, but like I don't know if it's safe to have a baby out here. I don't know if I'm going to find water. I don't know if I'm going to find what I need. And so come and get me.
Yeah.
And then she proceeds to be a total queen.
It was unreal. My mom watched it, and said she was breathing along with June, and my mother obviously has given birth twice, and she was just like, I felt like I had to stop myself from like breathing along with her and pushing. Like,
yeah, I watched it with somebody who has given birth, and I could feel that woman like,
yeah,
with June.
I think it's, presumably something that people kind of, once you've done that, you know what it takes and what a remarkable effort, certainly to do it without any medicine or.
That one scene where she's like gripping the back of the chair and screaming, I was just like, this is feral.
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah.
She is tapping into the power that her body has been given, like on a supernatural level. Like, yeah. I was thinking about what her body was physically doing while that was happening, back to all my anatomy classes, and I was just like, women are incredible, man.
Yeah, man.
Holy cow, we're the best.
100%. And, until the advent of modern medicine,
that's how it was done.
Not even indoors a lot of times. But certainly without any form of assistance or pain relief or anything. And that was amazing. It was a remarkable thing to see. And Elizabeth Moss just give her the Emmy. Just give it to her.
There you go, Petal.
No one else is going to come close.
No. So, and then at the end, there's a voiceover. We know that she names her Holly after her mother.
Oh, I know.
And considering the fraught relationship with her mother, as we've learned, and that her mother was an unwoman, I think this is her reclaiming her mother's name too, which is, as we've talked about, the importance of naming.
Very powerful, yeah.
And then that's kind of it. So, but as she was flashing back, I was wondering, Dr. Hinson, if some of the stuff she was flashing back to, like, I mean, clearly her birth with Hannah, which I loved Moira in that, because that's going to be like me. In this, my friends have babies, I'm going to be like, I have the playlist. What do we need? What do we do?
She needs water. Get her water right now. Yeah.
But then flashing to the Handmaids, is that a bit of like an imprisonment narrative? Like, I mean, clearly, because she was, sorry guys, my laptop just fell. Because, like, is that like one of those Stockholm syndrome-y things? Like, why would she think of the Handmaids?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I had the friend that I watched it with was like, I don't understand why she would have drawn on Aunt Lydia. Like, we know the really difficult relationship she has with Aunt Lydia, putting it mildly. She's been tortured by this woman. She's been imprisoned by this woman. Why would she draw on the really weird ritual of them, practicing labor births at the Rachel and Leah Center? And really, like, when I studied imprisonment narratives, I looked at people's changing identities. So when my research looked at people's kind of how they saw themselves before they were imprisoned, how they saw themselves as they were imprisoned, and then how they saw themselves afterwards. And we can argue whether or not June's narrative is after her imprisonment or not. She gave us a little bit more at the end here and said, like, if you ever get the chance, if I meet you, or if you escape in the future. She says you escape. So has she escaped? We don't know. But there's these different phases of June, right? And the whole episode, she's flashing back to her pre-prison self, because that's the only other time she gave birth. but also she's all on her own in this house as she's giving birth. And so she flashes back to the time when she wasn't and she had that support. But then like the handmaids kind of creep in there right at the end. And that's because she's formed attachments with these people and she's built relationships and they've become effectively her family. And she knew that if she called on them, on the power of that collective women, and we saw referencing, like flashing back to Janine's birth, where like all of those women were there. So I think it was almost like the ghosts of them in a way to support her. But it did strike me a bit as, and you know, no matter how much she wants to maintain that she's the person that she was before Gilead in her narrative,
yeah,
she's not that person. She will be forever altered because of what she's experienced, and will be a new or a different person, obviously, by what's happened to her. As much as it's part of her survival mechanism to hang on to pre-Gilead June, totally understandable, she's not. And so I think it helped her to maybe make that mental connection to the world that wasn't so far away. But it was fascinating to include that. It kind of took me back for a second. And then I was like, once I started thinking about it in my doctor hat, I was like, oh yeah.
That makes sense.
That makes sense. And a fascinating conversation she's having, presumably with Holly at the end, where she's, if I speak to you, if I tell you this story, I will you into being. So for me, like the power of naming her after her mother, but also just talking to her to maintain that she is an individual, that her daughter, Holly, you know, we don't know what happens to her. Maybe she's completely, you know, maybe June is now separated from the Waterfords. She's not seen Holly. She's taken on this new name and this new life, as we saw Hannah has with those photographs. Maybe these letters to her children, possibly, are a way to keep them alive as her children, not just as these kids that have been taken away from her, you know? So I was really, she said, I tell, therefore you are, at the end. So just keeping the memory of her children alive through this narrative. But could you imagine like being a child, and if you think back on all the things June said, like being like a 12-year-old and you get all of these like letters or a tape or whatever that's your mom like,
hey, by the way,
swearing and being June. So yeah, that's kind of what I had, but most of it, I think we're just moving the pieces forward at this stage. I don't think I could be wrong. We don't know what the next episode will bring. We watched the preview. I am alarmed.
Perpetually alarmed. Yeah.
In a constant state of alarm.
Yeah.
We may or may not see some religious ceremonies. You have some thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, I mean, one of my big questions is going to be, how are they going to handle baptism? Because I mean, different Christian traditions have different, you know, thoughts around it.
Yeah.
Some people that don't think you ever baptize infants, but you like dedicate them into a faith. There are some people that baptize infants like 6 days after they're born. Like there's a lot of, and what they're going to do is going to be really telling to kind of how they see childhood salvation and what humans are and kind of all that stuff. So I'm very anxious. I would be surprised if we see nothing about it, even like the planning of the ceremony, the christening gown or whatever in the next 2 episodes. But then again, in my deepest wish, June just like takes her and makes her run for the border. So
yeah.
No.
Yeah. In the preview for the next episode, I think there was a family photograph on the wall.
Yeah.
Of the Waterfords and the baby. So do we jump in time? I don't know. It was a flash. Maybe it wasn't. And the baby was dressed in white, so was it baptismal?
Yeah, I mean, it looked like a christening gown to me.
It looked like a christening gown, right? I just copped to this. I just remembered this. So,
but I don't know if that's a fantasy. I don't know if that's Serena dreaming. I don't know. But there's
so much we don't know.
A lot of conversation about it. I mean, if we got the whole virginal wedding, we're definitely going to get the whole baptismal ceremony at some point.
Yikes.
And I'm very intrigued to see what they do with that.
Yeah.
And then I don't know what else I want at this point, because
I mean, Homegirl's not getting out of there. Like this season is not ending with June out of Gilead.
No. And I don't think I'm going to ever assume that until they tell us that this is the final season of. And then I'll be like, well, then it better be the destruction of Gilead. Like,
right? Yeah, so there were some pretty big events at the end of last season.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, some things moved. Some chess pieces moved.
We had some things develop. So I think these last 2 episodes are going to be, keep the hits, keep the punches rolling.
For sure.
Gird your loins, everybody.
Perpetually. So in the meantime, I'm Dr. Donnelly.
And I'm Dr. Hinson.
We're the good doctors of Abbey Research who stand in awe of Elizabeth Moss and wish you an incredible week. See you next week, guys. Bye.
Bye.